But a big thing for me, because I've seen so many houses, I didn't want a super cheap flip, because if I have a super cheap flip, if I have a cheap product, it's gonna sell for a cheap price. I didn't want to sell for a cheap price. That's why I was able to sell it for over the ARV. So I thought I was gonna save some money on the HVAC, because the HVAC wasn't old. I think it was like 2018, so less than 10 years old. It was working pretty functional. I'm like, all right, cool, I'm gonna keep this in there. What ended up happening was, I guess, you know, some people who were walking the street, they saw that this was a job site. So what they did was they went to my exterior unit and took the copper out of it. They cut the copper out of it. Now, when you cut the copper out of a unit, not only did they pretty much break the entire unit just trying to get the copper out, the unit's broke. The unit's now not functional, you know? For them getting that piece of copper, they probably sold it, what, $75? Cost me about $5,000 to put in a brand new exterior HVAC unit. Yeah, it was originally a 3-bed, 1.5 bath. Okay. I converted it to a 3-bed, 2-bath, and I added about 200 square footage in there by turning that sunroom. No, there already was. So there was a sunroom in there, but it didn't have any coolant, or I mean, didn't have any ventilation or anything, which can't count towards square footage. So all I did was just add some ventilation to it.
If you ever thought you were too young to invest in real estate, our guest today is only 25 years old. That's right. While most of our young people are out there doing some craziness, this guy is actually doing real estate right now. He's the owner of Assets Real Estate, right? Is that Virginia Beach or Norfolk?
Whole Hampton Roads.
The Whole Hampton Roads.
For now.
He's an owner, investor, entrepreneur. His firm is #1 in sales for first-class franchise owners. And today we want to talk to him about how he just did his first flip and lived.
Let's do it.
He actually made money.
Yes, sir.
Kris A. Williams, thanks for coming, bro.
Thank you for having me. Looking forward to it.
Let's do it. How long have you been in the real estate business in general?
I started when I was 20 years old. So 5 years ago, the craziest time ever, literally right as the world shut down during COVID is when I started in real estate.
Okay, what made you want to do that?
So what made me want to start in real estate? So before getting in real estate.
Keep going.
Okay. Before getting in real estate. I was working at Foot Locker Enterprise. Well, let's go back a little bit further, to be honest with you. See, I even got there. I was a football player all my life. That's what I was known for in the area, is football, you know.
In Virginia, Norfolk area?
Yeah, the 757 area. I actually went to private school and high school to play football. You know, after I graduated, you know, had a bunch of offers, things like that.
What's the offer?
Scholarship offer. So I think total was like around $2 million or so in scholarship money to play football. So I knew that I thought that college was the next step, right? But I wasn't smart enough. I thought I had like a 2.7 GPA, so I knew I wasn't getting an academic scholarship. And the big thing for me with going to college, I'm not gonna get any debt. That was a huge thing for me. I didn't want any debt.
That'll destroy you.
Exactly. So football was my way to get where I wanted to be at. So what happened actually was, when it came to football, we were a week before training camp started, and to make a long story short, my scholarship got taken away.
Wow.
And it wasn't anything that I did, right? It was basically a miscommunication. When they offered me, they said that I should have committed that day. I waited a few months because I wanted to weigh some different options, and I committed a few months later. But the thing is, they never told me I had to commit that day. So when I committed a few months later, they was like, hey, you know, glad to have you on, all things like that. We're going through things as normal. So I'm like, when this happened, I'm like, why didn't you guys tell me? First of all, when you first offered me, I had to commit that day. And also when I did commit, why didn't you tell me that this wasn't a committable offer? Like, there wasn't any scholarship money. Damn. And with the coach, you know, I was frustrated because at this time, you know, we're a week before training camp. It's too late for me to go anywhere else. I'm trying to figure out what my next move is. And the coach literally said to me, he said, hey man, sorry for the miscommunication, but you got two options. Option one, you could come here, walk on, and earn a scholarship. Or option two, you could stay home. I said, I'm staying home. Never talked to them again, and, you know, went about my life. So at that point.
What is walk on? Do you pay the tuition and go to the school?
Yeah, so walk on is you try to So you don't have any scholarship money.
And you're paying.
Yeah, exactly. So you're paying basically to play football. It's like, yeah, I like football, but I don't like it enough to, you know what I'm saying? So I'd rather, do something make money. So I was like, working.
You want to play? Come on.
Yeah.
Hey.
Like, I'm cool. I'm good off of that. So I was just trying to figure stuff out, man.
These folk, hold up, man.
They crazy.
I don't want to even say these white folk, but these folk, man.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
All
it
right,
is.
go ahead.
It's wild.
And you 17, 18?
I stayed back a year in high school, so I was 19 at the time when I graduated.
Trying to figure this shit out.
Yeah, exactly.
Should I do that? Okay, go ahead.
So it was wild, man.
That's real foul.
And like I said, because we're so late, this is August. At that time, no schools really have any openings availability left. So my only option I had to do was community college at TCC.
All right.
So I was already working at Foot Locker at the time, selling shoes and stuff. So I'm like, all right, I got extra time. Let me pick up another job at Enterprise. So I was working 2 jobs, Foot Locker, Enterprise, and then also going to school.
It's 2019.
2018. Yeah, 2018. I graduated 2018. So big kicker, I didn't have a car. Because the thing is, I didn't have a car. I had a car in high school. But I have a sister who was 16 at the time. Remember, I'm supposed to go to school. So my parents are already promised, hey, she's getting a family car. So with me not being in school no more, they're not going to go back on their promise. So she's the one who got the family car. Now I don't have a car, but I got 2 jobs and I got to go to school. All right, what comes into place? Uber, right? Now the thing is, when it comes to Uber gets very expensive. So I'm, looking up like how much I'm making from my jobs. I'm like, man, I'm basically working for free almost in a sense because I got to go to school too. So it came to the point, it's like, all right, you got 2 options. You could stay in school when you really don't even want to be in school. There's really no long-term goal. You're just there. Or you could just save money and work the job. So I dropped out of school after a semester. TCC, I had all A's also too. Like I was good in school. So I dropped out and then I just continued working those jobs. And then at Enterprise, I wasn't even a salesperson, nothing like that. I was cleaning cars, right? So there wasn't any really long-term goal. But when I'm cleaning cars, I got a lot of free time, I can listen to music or I can listen to podcasts. And one of my favorite podcasts, one of the hosts, he was talking about the importance of real estate and owning real estate. Now, mind you, at this time,
you remember?
Yeah, DJ Envy on the Breakfast Club.
Yeah.
So mind you, at this time, I ain't know nothing about real estate. You said what?
I went to Hampton with him.
Word, okay,
We used to
okay.
make music together.
Yeah, I didn't know anything about real estate. Like my mom she used to watch HGTV, and like when she would watch it, I literally would walk out the room because it was boring. I didn't care nothing about it. But I like money. I knew money was important, and he was always talking about, hey, it's easy to get in. You don't have to have a bunch of money, all this stuff. So I'm like, all right, this makes sense. Let me look into it. So I started doing some more research on it. I realized he was talking about real estate investing. Now, at the time...
Not as a sales.
Yeah, not as a salesperson. He was just talking about real estate investing. So I, started doing more research around real estate investing. And at the time, it seemed like you had to have money to do real estate investing. Remember, I'm 19 years old. I'm working at Enterprise and Foot Locker. I have no money, obviously, So... I'm like, dang, this won't work.
You have to have some money. I don't want Kris. You gotta have some money.
You do. I'll say that. You're right. You do gotta have some. Now, I will say there's options where you don't have money. You gotta partner with somebody though. I would say it's money or time.
Okay,
I think you can do real estate investing without money, to be honest with you.
We'll get into that then.
Yeah, we'll get into it for sure. So, where was I in that?
You're getting ready to leave Enterprise.
Yeah. So, I realized that I didn't have any money, so I said, dang, I still am interested in real estate. Let me look around for some other options. Real estate agent, that popped up for me. I was like, all right, cool. So I could just sell houses, I could make commissions. And remember, I'm working at Foot Locker, I'm selling shoes. And my mindset was, okay, if I could sell shoes, remember, I'm like top salesperson in the district. I'm selling shoes like they're hotcakes. I'm like, okay, if I could sell shoes, I could sell houses easy. That's what I thought. So I started doing my studying, got licensed as a real estate agent in 2020, March of 2020. And right when I quit Enterprise to do real estate full time, the world shut down. So 2020, man, that was a time.
But still, real estate was super hot though.
It was for everybody except me. I only sold 2 houses my first year. So one in
2020?
August. Yep. So one in August, sold one in November. And that was for a mixture of things. You know, I was young. I was super green.
You still young, Kris. What you talking about? You was young.
Man, I feel like an old head now, man. I feel like an old head. Crazy, I'm saying that to you because you obviously much older.
I'm
But
dope. I'm twice your age. Go ahead. So the first year you sold 2 houses.
Yeah.
You knew in the game. Most people don't sell 1 house their first year.
Yeah.
So.
But the thing about that, though, a lot of people, when they start out part-time in real estate. It's like, all right, you know, I still got my full-time job, my benefits, things like that. No, I went cold turkey, quit everything, basically, to do real estate. I'm first one in the office, last one out, working 80 hours per week.
Taking on calls, you taking the news.
Doing everything. I'm doing everything that you can. Doing cold calls, you know, calling the pond, making content, doing all of this, and nothing seemed like it was working. So that was a very tough time for me. But that's why.
How long was that though? That's only what, 6 months, 8 months?
From March to the end of the year.
8 months.
Seemed like forever though. Imagine you going to the office every single day, you know.
I guess you in it. It's different when you're in it.
Yeah, 100%. Now looking back, it's like, all right, that really wasn't that much, you know. But during then, it's like, goodness. But
it's forever.
Yeah, I'm really strong-willed though, so I'm like, all right, I'm still gonna stay in it. I'm not gonna quit. And a big reason for that also is because that what I went through with football. Like I said, everybody knew me as a football player. So when I wasn't in college for football, I gotta hear people, because I'm still here. They're like, oh, why are you here? I thought you were supposed to be gone. You know how embarrassing that is. So I never wanted to go through that ever again. So when it comes to real estate, I introduced myself as a real estate agent. I'm not going to not be a real estate agent. I'm going to make something work.
I'm sure a lot of people get depressed over that, Kris.
They do.
That's the limelight of their lives. I'm so glad I never fell into that, but I seen a lot of dudes that were good in high school, and then after that.
It's a big thing, man. I don't think many people touch on that. I went through that depressive stage for a while because it's really like an identity crisis. When you have been known as one thing for a while, when you're so good at one thing for a while, you can wrap your identity in it. So I was like Kris, the football player. Really, everybody knew me as that. So when that's taken away, you're kind of like, who are you? Because I'm a type of person, I don't believe in a plan B. I only believe in plan A. So I literally had no idea what the plan B was. Dang. So when that was taken, it's like, where do you go from here? You know? Did
you have any support with that mentally?
I would say I had support, you know, from family. You know, my parents, they've been in my life. They've been great support. So they were able to, you know, give me support there when it comes to that. But it also gets to a point, I actually did end up getting, you know, kicked out of my parents' house a few months after that.
Grown man.
Yeah, which at the time I didn't understand it, but it's probably one of the best things that's happened to me.
What caused you to get kicked out of the crib?
Yeah, man. So like I said, I'm very strong-willed. And then also, when you're in the adult world, so remember, working at Foot Locker, working at Enterprise, right? I'm seen as a grown man, right? And because I'm like one of the top people at Foot Locker, I'm in like a leadership position. So out in the world, I'm a grown man. You know, I'm making things happen, you know, making my own money. And then I would literally be at work 7 a.m. to, let's say, 9:30 p.m. each day. Get back to my parents' house and I come in and they're like, hey, wash the dishes. You know, that's not really something you're trying to hear after you've been working all day. Okay. You basically treat it like a little kid in a sense. I'm like, I'm not a little kid.
Well, you are a child.
I am.
Child.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right.
Okay, let's talk about your mindset at that time.
Yeah.
So you're like, I'm grown. I don't feel like.
Yeah. So I was like, man, I wasn't like defiant in the sense like I'm not doing it, but you know, like I would have an attitude about doing it for sure.
As opposed to doing it with love.
Yeah, exactly. And like, so even little things like
young people getting this.
Even like little things like, man, remember I'm working 12 plus hours a day. I come home, I probably want to listen to my podcast, listen to my music. I don't feel like having a conversation with my folks, but they haven't seen me all day. You know, they may want to have a conversation.
Yeah, they missed you.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm not really trying to hear that. So just little strife, things like that. And yeah, we just butted heads.
As you should have. You growing up. You need your own space.
Exactly. So
so they were like, "What? We're done. You got to go."
Yeah, there was like a turning point.
No beef, was it? No animosity.
It was. Actually, it was for a little bit. I mean, we're on great terms now, but for a while, it wasn't.
Distance will help.
This is 100% help. So we basically had something happen, and I was basically given an ultimatum. It was like, hey, do this or you got to leave by this date. And I wasn't willing to do that. So
Were you paying rent?
I wasn't.
And you chilling?
Exactly.
Pretty good, bro.
Yeah. So
all I want you to do is do the dishes and smile, Kris. All right.
You know, it's when you're young, you don't really be knowing. Now it's like, dang, like they weren't, too hard on it. Like,
Heck no,
yeah,
man. Parents let you
100%. So yeah, I mean,
right.
after that, left. I actually stayed with my grandma because I was gonna go to the military. I didn't even mention that. That's what I was gonna do for anything about real estate. And I was gonna stay with her till I got shipped off, but it took a while to get shipped off. So I started paying her to rent a room in her apartment.
Okay. Luckily you had family, bro.
Yeah, man. That's family's everything. 100%.
Lucky with that. All right, so you had to go. Now you're in the office you're taking calls. You're at the bottom.
Yeah.
Today I want to get to this deal. My main reason for you here is to talk about your flip because people. Yeah. Do you know some people go throughout their whole life and don't even do one?
For real? Wow.
Like you don't even, you may not even understand the concept of not, like, we do it every day. I got 2 closings today, right?
Yeah.
I'm spending $500,000 today, right? It's another day. But I want us to both understand that some people never do a flip. And they want to.
Yeah.
Right? So that's why they come here to kind of see the stories on how you put it all together.
Yeah, yeah.
We coaching people 50, 60 years old, Kris, that are trying to get into this game. And when they say a young man, they want to know, how do you do it fast?
Yeah.
All right.
For sure.
Let's keep that framework up. Young whippersnappers, these young people. I'm so glad you're willing. I think, Kris, there's a huge gap in the elders with all the wisdom, all the experience, all the knowledge, and the young people with no knowledge, wisdom, experience, all the energy, technology, all the wherewithal. And it's like this. I see it every day. I see it every day.
Yeah.
I mean, I coach people around the country.
Yeah.
And I'm like, where is this gap, Kris? In your mind, why is it this big gap? But you even said it when you got here. You're like, dang, most older people don't.
I've seen it on both sides, man. To speak to like the young
come
people.
In, welcome. I'm like, let's do this. Let's go. We can do it together.
Yeah, I feel like some young people can be very egotistical. They're like, man, I'm not listening to old head. Like, they don't know what's happening. They don't know what's going on in 2025. They living in 1980, things like that.
Okay. It was ego.
Yeah, it's ego. A lot of young people do have ego, which I think ego is the enemy. I think to succeed, you got to get rid of your ego, which is more things we could talk about.
The enemy is I.
When it comes to, the older generation, things I've seen, I don't necessarily want to group everybody in general, but I have seen I've seen like jealousy in a sense.
Okay. Wow.
If you start talking about like income, you start talking about owning assets. I have seen some older people, they may get jealous or say little subtle things.
Where they're looking at themselves.
Exactly. They're like, okay, how did he do this, but I couldn't do it?
That's tough.
I've seen things, and I don't want to, I hate like talking about myself in that way because I don't ever want to seem like, hey, I'm the greatest person and I'm doing all this or that. But you asked the question, those are things that I have seen, that can kind of be the gap. And that's not just me. I've seen it with, a lot of people. Like, take, for example, when it comes to the TikTok stuff, I've seen a lot of older people, they hate on like the TikTok influencers. Like, this isn't a real way to make money. Like, streaming, playing video games, this isn't a job. I've had to work in the fields and do my bare hands just to make 50,000. And these streamers, they make millions of dollars a year. Well, bank accounts don't lie. This is what the people want.
Well, let me just ask you, Kris, if you don't mind just loving on us a little bit. I see some of it. Obviously, I don't live it because I do the same thing you do. So I'm asking you just to love on us a little bit.
Yeah.
Because a lot of us do come from, even my people around me, I'm like, you don't own no real estate. I mean, I can't even comprehend it. I don't even know what it feels like. So I got to make sure I deploy extreme empathy.
Yeah.
So I'm just asking you to do the same.
100%.
As a young, because you see things, Gary Vee said, our most important asset is our perspective, right? So I'm like,
that's dope.
When I see things, I'm like, am I going to look at it from this way or that way,
this
person? So
Yeah.
It's rough. So I ask you to participate in that.
100%.
All right. So let's talk about this flip.
Let's do it.
I'm glad you are here. You didn't die.
Yeah.
I'm sure you.
It felt like I was going to die.
Yes, that's what the story.
Felt like it, yeah.
So y'all, Kris did a flip, and some people never do one. We do it every day. We got construction sites going all the time. But for you, the first one, in my opinion, is the hardest.
Yeah.
Was it hard?
It was very hard. It was not necessarily number-wise things like that, but it was very stressful. It's so many things that go into it. It's super, super stressful.
We call it life energy.
Yeah.
Life energy it takes from you to
Yeah.
do one of these things.
That's good.
So I want to get into that because until you hang around guys that have been in the game for a long time, it's hard for me.
Mm-hmm.
It was maybe not for you to define what's going on. Like, why is it? So my mentor was like, Kris, this is what life energy is about.
Yeah.
Running the job, going to home, doing this.
Yeah.
So let's start from the top.
Mm-hmm.
How did you locate this deal?
Yeah.
All the people don't know. How do you find a motivated seller?
Yeah. So how I actually found this deal, simply I wanted to buy a flip. Like I had already done rental properties, already done wholesaling. I just hadn't done a flip yet. So I wanted to do it.
From being an agent to going into investing?
Yep, and I was already an agent, right? So I've done pretty much everything in single family residential except a flip. And I had been wanting to do a flip. I just kept on putting it off. I'm like, all right, let me just really focus, right? So I just made a story post. I was like, hey, I'm trying to, buy another house within the next 90 days. If you know something or know of something, let me know. Made that story.
I'll try that one.
Yeah, just made that story. And then I had an agent friend. Funny, she was my manager at Enterprise also.
What?
Back when I was there. Yeah.
Came around, so you left on good terms.
Exactly. I always leave on good terms, man. I don't believe in burning bridges unless they need to, but that's rare.
I'm glad.
So it came full circle. Yeah, she reached out to me. She said, hey, I had this appointment with a seller. I don't really know what to do with it. I know you're into investing, so here's this lead. And I went out there, went to the appointment, got the contract signed that day. Cause she brought me to
as a agent or as a buyer?
As a buyer.
Okay.
As a buyer. So whenever I go into appointments, I always try to put my buyer hat on first. That's the great thing I do love about being an agent is any type of lead we can help them out with, whether it's listing on the market or whether it's me buying it myself.
Okay. Yeah, that's cool. That's a good advantage of being an agent.
100%. So yeah, she brought me the lead, and because she brought me the lead, I did pay her a finder's fee from that also.
So that was a referral?
Yeah.
Where was the house at? What city?
Hampton.
All right.
Yep, in Hampton.
What made this one? Why this house? You looked at hundreds of houses, I'm sure.
Yeah. So this one, I say it had a ton of opportunity in it. One thing I didn't necessarily like, it needed a full entire rehab. This wasn't no cosmetic flip. Like it need every single thing from the ground up.
That's hard for a newbie, though.
It is. But the good thing is I feel like I was a bit more advanced than your traditional new real estate investor because at that time I think I'd been an agent for 4 years. So I was like, all right, I know things, I know your common things, ARV, all of that. And I brought the deal smart also.
Oh, okay.
I had so much, what's the word? Wiggle room.
Equity.
Yeah. There was a ton of equity because I brought it sub too also. There was so much wiggle room where I knew I could mess up 10 times over and I'll be fine, which I did mess up over and over. And I was still fine,
Y'all hear that? You got to buy right.
Yeah, exactly. That's most important, buying right.
What's the purchase price?
So yeah, the sales price for that one was $119. But remember, I brought it subject to.
Brought it subject to. For people that don't know what subject to is, what is that?
So easy way to explain subject to is almost like assuming the seller's mortgage. So I call it purchasing on terms. So what I'll do is I'll take over their mortgage payments, and depending on the deal, sometimes I'll give them money at closing. Just depending on what works for them.
So you're a real estate agent and you can still do that? You telling me, Kris, it's not illegal for agents to do that?
It is not illegal. That is a common question that I get, though, when presenting subject to. But the thing I always tell them is, hey, I'm putting my license on the line. I would never do anything illegal. The reason why people think it's illegal, though, is because you got to think, who pushes traditional mortgages? Who benefits from traditional mortgages? The banks. They benefit hugely. So, of course, they don't want you to know about subject to because they don't benefit from subject to. That's what I tell my sellers. They're like, oh, it makes sense.
My realtors out there, just the guys doing it. Come on, stop. The people whining and complaining. You're a realtor, you can't do that. So we're done with that.
You can definitely do it.
All right, 119, you took over the mortgage at what?
Their payment was a bit under 900 per month, so 893 per month.
What did they owe though? You gave them 119, but what did they owe?
What did they owe?
Ballpark, 80, 90. You had to give them cash.
So my total that I paid to even get into, like, my check I wrote at closing was $8,300. I gave them $5K.
All right, so they owed like 110 then. So you were basically in it from.
Well, no, that was they actually owed. So when I buy a subject to, I put it under contract for whatever their payoff is. So their payoff was 119 actually.
Okay, all right, cool. All right.
Yep.
Well, sometimes the payoff could have been 50. I mean, it could have been anything.
Yeah.
So they owed pretty much what you paid for you bought it for what they owed on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Okay, cool. That's fine. All right, go. So you did that, you went in there, now you own it. What happened to the seller?
So the sellers, they moved out. I believe they were getting orders from somewhere. They were
military.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. These are great for subject twos. I think all my ones I brought subject to have been VA loans.
They're gone.
But the thing I loved about this one, I fell in love with, was because the rate was so low. Because when they had brought it, I think it was like 3% or less. So that's why I had, a $900 payment.
Sweet.
So that was a much better option for me versus if you're buying a house, an investment property, you got to do hard money, traditionally, things like that. That's true. That's a ton of money you got to shell out of pocket.
25%.
So, yeah. So imagine, okay, let's do that same exact price, right? 119. If I did hard money, it's at least 30K.
Yeah, 25%.
That I'm going to have to pay at closing versus I paid $8,300 at closing to buy this house.
So the seller got what, $5,000?
5K. Yep. I did 5K. I paid her closing costs, my closing costs.
So the motivation for this seller was military relocate.
Yes.
Okay.
So even I want to talk about the 5K a little bit too. She wasn't okay with just 5K. She actually wanted like around 20K. Well, she wanted 30K at first. I was able to talk her down, but she still was really set. She needed around 20K. Now, I don't want to give that much up front because I was like, okay, I might as well just do hard money if I'm going to put that much up front. So what I did, I structured was I'll give you 5K up front. I'll give you a balloon payment for, 15K in 6 months because I already know the property would be flipped in 6 months.
Sell it.
Take that out my profits.
So for people that don't know what a balloon mortgage, a balloon note you did with her, balloon mortgage, what is that? Yeah,
so it's basically you're going to, pay them a set amount at a certain amount of time, whenever you decide that it be. It can be 1 month, 6 months, 2 years, whatever you want it to be.
30 years, y'all. 40. It could be anything you
whenever you want it to be.
As long as you come up with the seller.
Exactly.
That's cool. So you structured that. You didn't come out of the womb. Most agents have no idea about this stuff, Kris. Why do you?
I research, man. People always like to ask what I do for fun. What I do for fun is work and learning.
My hobby is working, bro.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's literally all I do is work out and work.
But
so
go ahead.
I watch videos, listen to podcasts. The main reason I even found out about subject to is because the start of that year, I really wanted to buy an investment property, but I thought the rates were just so high. So instead of, complaining and being like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do? I just started researching and subject to came up. So I just took a ton of information, read a bunch of books about it.
Got it.
And I did it.
So why is it, Kris, that most agents have because we look identical. When I walk out the front door, my mind sets me a light years away from most agents, just the way I look at it. I'm not saying that I'm better, I'm just a guy.
Yeah.
Right? But if an agent 100%. Looks at this, they're looking at it one way. And an investor's like, oh shit, man, we could do it like this, boom, 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 and we'd be gone. Right? So why is it that our community why isn't that agents, what is it? Why can't I feel like I'm in a brick wall trying to educate our professionals.
I'll say it's really looked down upon in the agent community. Same reason why, they push traditional mortgages, because you got to think, who benefits? Exactly. Who benefits from it? So like, even when it comes to wholesale, a lot of agents won't do wholesale because they think it's illegal. They think it's hurting the seller. They think this. When I did my subject to deal, I had an agent that I actually referred business to before. This isn't a random agent in Carolina. She said, oh, you're doing sub 2. How do you feel like hurting sellers? I'm like, okay, like, what are you talking about? So I had to educate them actually on how it benefited the seller.
Did they want to be educated though? Because
they did. They just came at me very aggressive. But the thing is, I'm not an emotional person, so I didn't take offense to it or nothing. I educated them, and after a little conversation, they understood it. I think they just had, so much negative things said about it that they were like, oh, it has to be a scam. And they were kind of trying to call me out about it.
Is she in the game?
Yes. This is the agent I
Very
refer
close.
business to. This isn't no random agent. Like me and this agent have made money together.
You got love on him, Kris.
Exactly. We got love on him. So.
Golly. All right. We can stay here all day. So you bought it. Now you're in it. The seller's gone. Help break it down for me. What do you think the renovation is going to be when you start?
Man, funny. I thought my renovations were going to be $45K. Yeah. That was going to be 45. Now, mind you,
8-10 years ago, you could have done a whole house for 40K.
Yeah, I don't know why I thought 40.
Who told you that?
Man.
Why did you think that?
Well, the thing is,
I'm not saying I'm not
no,
trying to
you're
look
good.
bad. I'm like, I
100%.
want people to know.
So I will say the main reason why I didn't do flips for a while because I could not properly estimate. Like I read so many things, I just couldn't like.
You can't read up on that.
Yeah, it just didn't make sense to me. So with that,
it's scary.
It is, yeah. So when I got my price from labor, because my contractor, he just gave me a price for labor. He didn't give me a price for materials or anything like that.
That's cool.
So I just assumed it'd be 45K. I was like, all right, so the labor plus the materials, we're gonna be around 45K. Now remember, I brought the deal smart though, so I was like, all right, if I go over budget.
What was it worth?
ARV on it was, I want to say originally when I priced it out conservatively, I had it at 285.
Okay, there you go.
I sold it for higher though, but my conservative ARV was that.
So you had about 180, 150 in it then, 150, 160.
Yeah, I had a good spread there.
All right, go. 45,000. I would love to stay here, but go. I can have a ball with you.
And then he told me originally it was going to be like a 4-week job as far as the rehab goes. So I was like, all right, 45K, 4-week job. It's going to be, it's going to be slight. No worries.
We might be able to do it in 3 weeks. Why not?
Yeah. So, all right, and I thought it was still on the market for about a month. So total, what is that? 3 plus 3, like 6-7 weeks. I thought it would, take around there. So, yeah, I was in for a rude awakening. We'll say that.
Go ahead. All right. Mm-hmm. So the contractor gave you an estimate.
Mm-hmm.
His labor was what?
Oof, making me go back on it. I think
you had to know something going in, Kris.
I did. I just don't remember off the top of my head right now, though, on what the exact labor was.
You don't remember this joint right here?
So I remember my total rehab cost. 90. I do remember that. Yep, about 90K was what it ended up costing. So 2 times what I thought it would.
Twice. We won't get to that.
Yep.
But as you're approaching this thing, I just want to know what you were thinking when you're getting into this thing, so people will know.
Yeah.
You started it. I mean,
so I did get multiple quotes from contractors. I knew that, right? So I went to 3 different contractors. One said 65K, one said 55K, and my guy said 45K.
This is labor.
No, the first one was for labor and materials.
Okay, shit ain't bad.
Yeah, so 65. I was like, let me just look around to see a bit more.
That's a little high for a whole renovation, bro.
Yeah. So I looked around to see more. That 50 or so 55K one, I was like, I don't know that person at all, so I don't know if I could trust him. My guy, I think just his labor was like 25K or something like that. So that's why I started thinking around the 45K mark. I'm like, yeah. And then one of my agents on my team, he had already used his contractor before. He was vetted.
Trusted guy.
Yeah. So I'm like, all right, cool. Let's go with him. Yeah.
All right. So you get into the job.
Yep. Get into the job. Whole lot of things happen with that, right?
This is a 3-2, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, or 1 bath?
Yeah, it was originally a 3-bed, 1.5 bath. Okay. I converted it to a 3-bed, 2-bath, and I added about 200 square footage in there by turning that sunroom. No, there already was. So there was a sunroom in there, but it didn't have any coolant, didn't have any ventilation or anything, which can't count towards square footage. So all I did was just add some ventilation to it. Got the square footage back.
So you get into the job. I just love the stories. It's the stories.
Yeah, so I got into the job, and there were things that I thought I would be able to say that I thought was going, save me some money. So
cut a little corner here and there.
Yeah, the seller, she had, she was already going to start to flip herself. So she had brought like a bunch of materials. She had a bunch of things from IKEA. She already had some of the stuff up, and she had a bunch of stuff in the storage in the sunroom. So I'm like, all right, cool. Like I'm gonna save some money on material. All we gotta do is just paint this stuff. Well, what ended up happening was she was missing materials. So funny thing is, those cabinets, not all of them were installed. So I paid the contractor to install the cabinets, we realized we didn't have all the materials and that just things were missing. They couldn't be installed right. So I had to pay them to take the ones he just installed out. Then I had to pay for all brand new cabinets and pay him again to install them. So that was a big unforeseen cost.
I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing with you.
Yeah.
Y'all hearing this, right? When
Big
you cut
unforeseen.
corners, you end up paying twice.
Yep, 100%. So I learned my lesson with that. Another big expense was the foundation. There was huge issues with the foundation. Like literally the floor was like caving in.
The subfloor.
Yeah, the subfloor. A big portion of the subfloor needed to be replaced.
Okay. Or just settling or water rot?
I think it was moisture. I'm pretty sure it was moisture.
Like this.
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
Yeah, it was bad. So that was a big expense that we had to pretty much tear the floors up, you know, when it came to that.
In one room or multiple rooms?
Multiple rooms, the living room and the kitchen. So this is a huge space.
That's a 10 more thousand to add on to the job.
Yeah. So those are big costs. I'm trying to think of like any big unforeseen costs.
Windows, you did everything.
I knew about those. Yeah. The roof and windows all pretty much had to be replaced. Couldn't keep any of them. Mm-hmm. The roof definitely had to be replaced.
Siding, you had to do re-side.
Siding, it was brick, so I could pressure wash and paint for most of it. There were some of course.
What color?
I did white. I did white and black.
I bet it was
nice. Yeah. Originally the house was like a powder blue. It was ugly. But
you give us some pictures. Hey, we're gonna flash some pictures up here so we can see it before.
Yeah.
When you're walking up to the property, man, and then you see it. So you painted the brick. I'm not mad at that. A lot of people don't like it, but people like.
Yeah, because it was powder blue. I couldn't keep. There's no way I could keep that color. Like it was ugly.
All right, so you're getting in. So the unforeseen subfloor.
Yeah, subfloor, cabinets. HVAC. The HVAC thing. So I thought I was gonna save some money on the HVAC because the HVAC wasn't old. I think it was like 2018, so less than 10 years old. It was working pretty functional. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm gonna keep this in there. What ended up happening was, I guess, some people who were walking the street, they saw that this was a job site. So what they did was they went to my exterior unit and took the copper out of it. They cut the copper out of it. Now, when you cut the copper out of a unit, not only did they pretty much break the entire unit just trying to get the copper out, the unit's broke. The unit's now not functional,
Done.
For them getting that piece of copper, they probably sold it, $75? Cost me about $5,000 to put in a brand new exterior HVAC unit.
Was the house located in a high foot traffic area?
No, that's the crazy thing. Now, it wasn't like a cul-de-sac or anything like that, but it wasn't like, even when I was scouting the property, there wasn't, many people. It was just a regular quiet neighborhood in Hampton.
Do you think, I have been told that a lot of these central heating and air jobs are from inside people saying to their friends, if you need something, go over there and get it. Do you think it was one of those?
I don't think so, man, to be honest with you, because I hadn't even had an HVAC person. It was only my contractor people that were in it. Cool. Yeah, and, I trust them pretty well and my contractor was actually probably as mad as me when it happened. He was pretty upset.
Kris, how many central heating and airs have grown legs on my jobs? We don't even put them in until we get a buyer, Kris.
That's super smart.
You can't even, I don't think insurance will cover it.
Probably not, yeah.
I think they might, but your deductible's $3,000 and then you got to think,
And people are looking for them. Literally, when we took that old one and put it on the street, within 30 minutes, somebody came by and was asking if they could take it for parts. Literally, like, people was looking for them all the time.
These are the stories. My roundup homies, these are the stories that you don't hear.
Yeah.
When people talk about, I did a house and I flipped it and made $30,000. This thing right here, Kris, the central heating and air thing set you back because you didn't. That was $5,000. You didn't.
That wasn't stagnant, exactly.
You had to do the inside and the outside, or just?
No, good thing the inside was still fine for the most part, just little tweaks. But the outside, we had to replace the whole entire exterior unit.
Godly. Okay.
And the interior unit, it was like a high quality one, so I couldn't just do no cheap, exterior, because they have to match.
Oh, okay.
So the exterior unit, I had to put in a higher quality exterior unit that I wasn't expecting to do.
Golly, you went from not having to do central heating in there to having to do central.
Yep.
That's a big one. Mm-hmm. Anything else you want to share that was unbelievable to you? Other than going over budget, this shit was. But
when that happened, though, the thing is, that was one of the last things that happened. So that's why we went overtime also, because we were almost supposed to be done. But when that happened, that pushes me back like a week and a half, 2 weeks past my budget time because you got to get the HVAC people out there and, to do all that. So that was tough. A really reason why this was tough for me also, why it was a big headache, is because for, my other companies, I was going out of state. I went out of state 3 times during this process.
You were doing what?
I went out of state, like, for my other companies,
Okay.
just masterminds and, jobs, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So
you're not even there then.
yeah, I wasn't even there. So, I'm in Vegas, just leaving a conference when I'm hearing about, hey, somebody stole your HVAC. I'm like, yo, like, what's going on? And, even doing little things like checking in on your contractors, that probably could have sped up the process if I was there a bit more, been able to pop up randomly.
Right,
even
Kris.
like that's one thing that happened. I went there Monday, 10 a.m. Nobody was there. Supposed to be my contract, he heard from me. We didn't have that issue after that, but just, things like that do happen. Or even I got a vanity ship for the primary bathroom. And when Amazon shipped it, the top was broken, a big crack on the top.
You never know.
And at that time, I'm still over time. So I'm like, man, I can ship it back, wait another 2 weeks for this to come in, or what are we going to do? So we found a solution where, the buyer who brought it was satisfied. So that's all that matters.
The buyer did what?
The buyer who brought it, they were satisfied.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
You got a solution. Cool.
Yeah. And
Wow, no one cares about your flip. I want to ask you, when I say this, no one cares about your flip more than you.
of course, yeah, 100%. I agree.
People think that they can just buy the house and the contractor is going to go in there and wave a magic wand, Kris.
No, you got to be very specific with your contractors too. That's a mistake I made at first, kind of being like, hey, you're the expert, you've done this, so you kind of do what you want to do. And then things were going on. I was like, no, this isn't going to work. Remember, I'm a real estate.
Every day. Yeah,
exactly. I'm a real estate agent, so I know what's going to sell and what's not going to sell. So yeah, you got to be very specific. Like, hey, if you want something done, like whatever it is, just let them know it needs to be done exactly like this. Give them specific things to follow. Don't let them deviate from it.
I hope y'all getting this. So time, the 4-week renovation, Kris. What did it turn into?
I believe it was about 6-7 weeks. The renovation around there.
You got it done that's still fast.
Yeah, let me see. Brought it in August. We put it on the market November.
That's still good, bro.
Yeah, around there. November, December, around there, somewhere.
Tell me about some of your fixtures and materials, flooring.
Yeah.
Colors.
So a lot of my fixtures and such I got from Amazon. Shout out to Amazon,
cheaper,
and I have an Amazon credit card, so I got my points,
okay. Yeah,
with
that's
that
good
too.
right there.
So my fixtures
cheaper.
such, yeah, 100%. Yeah, I was just comparing prices versus Lowe's and such. So my materials, like my flooring and all that, I did get from Lowe's.
This is easier.
Yeah, but a big thing for me, because I've seen so many houses, I didn't want a super cheap flip, because if I have a super cheap flip, if I have a cheap product, it's going to sell for a cheap price. I didn't want to sell for a cheap price. That's why I was able to sell it for over the ARV, while it was the highest
Stay there
comp.
for a minute. Stay there for a minute, Kris. What makes you say that?
What makes you say what?
If you got a cheap flip, you got to sell it for a cheaper price.
Yeah.
So stay there.
Just because, perception is reality for a lot of people. So they're like, they cut corners on here. I don't really want to pay top dollar for this thing because the value isn't necessarily there. Versus if you have a top product, people are going to be clamoring out the door because they're going to feel like they're getting a steal, even if you're priced higher.
I love it. So don't cut corners.
No, don't cut. As an agent, I've listed many flips from people who have cut corners, or I've seen flips from people who cut corners.
Kris.
Oh, what's a good example?
Painting cabinets, maybe?
Yeah. A common one that I think I see is lack of caulking. That usually I could tell. Yeah, cabinets, floors, things like gaps on the floors. I forgot what the exact thing that's called. The transition piece from the floor to the
trim.
Yeah.
Quarter round.
Yeah, the quarter round. Like
there.
lack of quarter round. Like it'll be like gaps and quarter rounds. That's when I know like, hey, this probably isn't a good flip. They're cutting corners on it.
Oh wow, I didn't think about that.
Yeah, so those are things I can pretty much see instantly in a house. If I go in a house, I walk it, caulking's good, quarter round's good. Everything that you can see is pretty good. For the most part, you're not going to get too many issues when it comes to inspection, like when it comes to their foundation and your roof, because this means they took care typically.
That is so cool. So you finished the project, you listed it. I'm presuming you were the agent.
Of course, yeah. Saving money.
So tell me about that process and your buyer interfacing with the buyer. No doubt they did the home inspection.
Of course, yeah. So remember my ARV on that, I had about 285. I ended up listing it for 315. Now I was able to list it for higher because not only, I mean, I converted it to an extra bathroom, so it went from 1.5 to a 3.2, and it also went from about 1,500 to 1,700 square feet. So able to get some more value there, and also we did so many things. Like I literally put a new driveway in.
Oh wow.
Yeah, which people
Was it
usually.
that bad?
It wasn't that, like, it was still functional, but remember, I'm trying to get top dollar. And driveway, that's one of the first things you see when you get up to a house,
Yeah,
you know?
true.
So I, put a brand new driveway in, did everything. And within a week, we went under contract. You know, I had a bunch of showings.
This is 20,
This was in December. This was a few months ago.
2024.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So had a bunch of showings, a bunch of people interested, no bad feedback. That area is a bit slower. So, I mean, I wish it would have went under contract over a weekend.
A week is still.
A week is great, you know?
Kris, do you know? I don't know. Well, maybe people may not know. A healthy market is 6 months. A healthy market is 6 months, brother.
6 months, good. Man, if I was
That's
holding
not
that flip for
healthy
6
market.
months, goodness gracious.
Now we get into this thing and we say, man, I need to have this thing sold 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Kris.
Because you see them holding costs is why? 6 months, it's a minute.
That's true, but don't forget the buyer doesn't
That's
care
true.
about
Yeah,
it.
they don't, you're right.
They don't care what you.
You're right.
So a week, dude, that is like phenomenal.
Thank you, I appreciate
It's
it.
phenomenal, dog. In a
Yeah.
week, you got a buyer. All right, tell me about your buyer. How that process? They paid.
They paid the list price. Now I did pay for their closing costs.
Okay,
But they
Explain
did
that
pay
to
my list price.
People that don't understand.
Yeah, so closing costs, anytime you purchase a home, you're going to have closing costs associated with it, whether you get a loan or whether you don't. Now, if you get a loan, typically your closing costs are going to be higher. Usually they're around, let's say, 3%, 3.5% of the sales price. So a buyer, when they're offering for a home, a lot of times they'll ask for closing cost assistance. As a smart flipper, you should always budget for that. Just in case, because worst case or best case scenario, let's say you get a full price offer, the buyer doesn't ask for closing costs. Guess what that means for you? More profit. But if you didn't factor that in, you're going to be, stuck because you're making less than what you thought. So I already had that factored in.
So you have to pay the closing costs for the buyer.
Yep. Pay the closing costs for the buyer.
What would you say to people who say, I ain't gonna do that? I ain't paying closing costs for the buyer.
Do you want your house sold or not? It
That's
really
the
boils. Yeah. Same thing I'll tell my sellers. Like, it doesn't matter if they ask for 20% closing costs. Are you getting the net that you want or not? If this is really your only option, which at the time, that was my only offer, and I didn't want to wait around for other offers. So I'm like, okay, you met my list price. All right. Your closing costs are what you want them to be. All right. I'm still netting more than what I thought I would. So I don't mind doing that. So it just boils down, when you're the seller, just think about, what do you really want at the end of the day?
You got to get out of these things.
Yeah, exactly.
Appraisal came in good?
Yeah. Appraisal came in at least at value. If it comes in at value, they're not going to let you know if it goes in over, but I know it came in at value.
So tell me about the people don't understand the additional items that you may have to do for a home inspection.
Yeah.
Break that down.
Yeah. So when it comes to home inspection, putting my real estate agent cap on for a second.
Yeah.
Some of the big things that you want to worry about is your top and your bottom. So when I say your top, I'm meaning your roof, your things in the attic typically. When it comes to your bottom, especially if you have a crawl space, that's your girders, your beams, if there's any moisture issues, things like that. Your plumbing is a big thing, your electrical, anything with that, any safety concerns, your major systems. Those are all really things that you want to care about in a home inspection. So when you're flipping a house, these are things that you got to be wary of. And if you want to cut corners, don't cut corners on those things, because they're going to come up in the home inspection and it's actually going to cost you more money. That happened with me a little bit.
On this one?
Yeah.
What happened?
I didn't cut corners necessarily, but
You can't get everything. I mean,
yeah, the water heater, I think it was like a drain pipe extension. We didn't have it going outside. I literally knew I was going to get hit with it on the home inspection. But I was like, whatever, let's see. I did get hit with it on the home inspection with that repair, but little things,
For this one here?
Yeah, for that one.
Yeah. Nothing else big on that?
On the home inspection?
That you can remember?
No, there wasn't anything big at all. But that's the thing. That's why I told my contractors, I was like, I already know we're going to get hit with on home inspection, so let's take care of this now versus, because you got to think, your buyer, when they do a home inspection, they also have the opportunity to release from the contract. You can have a home inspection so bad that they don't even want to ask for repairs.
The buyer.
The buyer, they have that option. So
I've been there.
yeah, they can release from it. So I didn't want that to happen to me. So I'm like, all right, let's take care of all the big things. And if we get hit with some little things like caulking or whatever on the home inspection, things we can fix, who cares? So the home inspection, super short, barely any repairs asked for.
So what about the money that you had to pay for the reno? It ended up being $90K. Where'd that money come from?
I had it in my account. So I used
cash.
Yeah, I cashed.
You saved up.
Yeah. So all my money, as a real estate agent, was able to fund that basically. So I live a very low lifestyle, you know.
It's just you. You ain't got kids.
Yeah, I don't have any kids, you know. No, not married, anything like that. So I'm able to, you know, save a bunch of money for the most part, for opportunities just like this. So I didn't have any problem with funding my renovation. I didn't want to at first, I will say that, but I couldn't find a private money lender who was willing to be second because it's sub 2.
That's big, yeah.
That's why, you know, I ended up funding it.
So we started this thing about talking about doing real estate with no money, but you use money. You did use some money.
Yes.
I just think real estate, let me ask you, is real estate easier when you have some capital?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, it's way easier because you have more options. That's the thing. When you don't have any money, you have very limited options. I always say you got money or you got time. So you can get into real estate without having any money. You just got to use the time part. So for example, if you want to do wholesaling, you need to be driving for dollars. You need to be scrubbing leads, scrubbing databases, cold calls, all things like that. If you have money, you can skip all that, pay VAs, pay somebody to do all that stuff for you.
Yeah.
Flips, your only way I think to really get into flips with no money is to partner with somebody. But even still, you're probably going to get a lower return.
But you're still in it. You would have no return if you didn't do the deal.
Exactly.
I don't mind doing partnerships with people all the time.
100%, yeah.
But I think we got to just be smart. Like if you're just bringing the deal, in the past, years ago, we would split 50-50, but then I'm like, this is done.
You give them 50-50 just for bringing the deal?
No, this is back in 2000.
I was about to say, I wish I would have known you couldn't just go out for them making a killing.
No. I never forget my mentor. No, I saw my mentor do it. He said, Kris, I'm never doing this again.
Yeah.
I won't do it.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you make 10 to 15%, that's still more than you would.
Yeah.
And you learn. My thing is, are you learning how to do this?
Exactly. So that's what I did before I did any type of real estate investing. I had plenty of opportunities, but what I did was I gave them to people in exchange for that. Not even wholesale. Before I even did wholesaling, I would literally give them the deal because I didn't know what wholesaling was. I would just give them the deal. I'd be like, okay, you take this deal. Let me learn everything from the deal. So when it actually came to me doing deals, I could do it like clockwork, even though I hadn't done a deal yet.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like you learn how to make money without using money yet. When you're wholesaling, you're just passing off the deal to somebody else. Which
Exactly.
You do that too.
Yes. Flips, they can be hard. They can be time consuming. So when it comes to the opportunity, I do like wholesaling if I can make a good amount. Let's say I'm gonna make 60 from a flip, but I gotta be in there for 8 weeks, or I could wholesale it for 40. Mm-hmm. Okay, even though it's 20,000 less, wholesaling, okay, I'm gonna get my money back within a month. I'd much rather take that than make 20,000 extra over, 2-3 extra months.
Shit, it might be more than that. You don't know what it could be. It's unknown. It could be 6 months.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't know what it could be. You got lucky. I'm not saying you have beginner's luck, but I mean, you did all the work. You did the work right.
Yeah.
The market was good. What would you do differently, Kris, on your first flip?
Good question. What would I do differently? I would know my numbers a bit more starting off, I would say.
On the reno?
On the reno, 100%. I wouldn't try to, cut corners. I would just, especially the cabinet thing, that was a huge thing, because not just money, it took so much time. It put us way behind schedule. Those are really the main things I would do different. I think I did things good, like buying it smart, being on top of contractors for the most part. I probably would say I would have a project manager.
So you don't got to be there all day.
Exactly.
That's hard to find too, Kris. You need to have somebody that you trust.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I agree. But I think, that's a way I could scale up and get my time back, is having a project manager, especially if I could pay them a good rate.
Yeah, you're right. I know you're super busy too. Even when I talk to you, just...
Yeah.
I'm like, damn, this dude is really out there rolling. I don't know how you're going to be at a construction site if you're doing... Like doing construction, don't do deals.
Yeah.
It's,
That's the thing too, that a lot of people, like new beginners and such, I know people ask me all the time, they're like, okay, if I get a flip, should I do the renovations myself? No. You would save money in the short term, in a sense, because you don't got to pay the labor. But okay, if you don't know how to do it, one, you got to know how to do the skill. And even if you do know how to do it, your time is more valuable than your money. So if you're spending 5-6 hours at one place, okay, that 5-6 hours you could be using to generating more sales.
More sales, raising money,
anything. Exactly, anything except slaving. You know, that's what you pay your guys for.
I'm glad you didn't do any work, did you? Or do you?
I don't even know how to. I don't want to learn how to. You know?
Don't.
I didn't do any work to it.
Bloody knuckles and busted hands.
Yeah, no way.
I've had contractors cut their fingers off. I had one dude cut it.
Goodness gracious.
And these are masters.
Yeah.
These are masters. Yeah, you don't do that.
Yeah. Most definitely.
All right. So what you would do differently was not cut corners with those What did you do with those cabinets?
You said what did I do with them?
Yeah.
Yeah. Throw them away.
Dude.
Hey, I mean, there's nothing I could really do with them. You know, it sucks.
Donated them joints to the.
You right. Actually, my contractor in his house, he probably still has like the old fridge, the old stove. He
probably got them.
He probably put on Craigslist, you know, made a little money off of it. Honestly, man, it's like, okay, I'll make $500 from this appliances. It's not really worth my time. Like, you got it, bro. Like,
you don't want the money. I mean,
exactly. Like, you got it.
So the cabinet thing and being on the site more.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Did you get a termite inspection before you bought?
I did. I used that actually to negotiate the price down. So this is a little hack for the audience. And I'm not the one that came up with this. One of my mentors, he taught me this. So you want to go to like a big termite company, one that you see on TV, because guess why? If they're on TV, they're probably going to hit you over the head with their price, right? So you go to them, have them do the termite inspection and a moisture inspection. If they find anything, what normally would be like a $5,000 repair, they're going to charge like $60,000 for that. Mm-hmm. So you get that invoice, you show it to the seller, you be like, hey, this is going to take $60,000 for me to do.
Reputable
I can't
company.
buy the deal anymore, right? At this price. So you can use that to negotiate for a lower price. And
that's a good one. That's worth liking the content, y'all. That was a good one. Reputable company, here's the paperwork, what you want me to do.
Exactly.
And then what is your hopes that you'll get a discount maybe?
Yeah, you can negotiate the price lower. And then let's say that company charges $60,000, your guy will probably charge $5,000 for it.
Yeah, that's a good one, y'all. Thank you for that, Kris. Mm-hmm. What do you want our viewers and my roundup homies to know about you, or about getting in real estate, or getting into flips? What can you give them to help them push them over the edge? Yeah,
I would say through my YouTube channel, through my social medias, which is at I am Kris A. Williams.
We'll put the links.
Yeah, I'm giving them a bunch of free information, to be honest with you. I just like to give back to people, provide value. So I'm talking about everything from real estate investing to being a real estate agent to building a real estate team, because I wasn't able to do real estate investing without being a real estate agent. I literally used my commissions I made from being a real estate agent to fund my real estate investing. So I'm teaching, other people on how to do that. Or even if you don't want to be a real estate agent, you want to get into real estate investing, check out my content. Cool, man. Thank you for your time. Thank you. What's in the future for you? Expansion, growing and scaling, man. That's the biggest thing that I'm focused on right now. I think I've got transactions or assets or assets. Yep. So assets is my company, my real estate company. So I really want to grow that. The hat. Thank you, man. Appreciate that. On the side, I don't know if y'all can see it, but it says "My money makes money." So that's what we want to focus on, building income. And one of our taglines is wealth through real estate. Yes. Over 90% of millionaires, they earn their income through real estate. So I believe in that 100%. I'm so glad. We need more people. We're changing the face of what our community looks like. No more shaking booty, drinking, drugging, sexing on the camera. Yeah. Conspicuous consumption, cars, all this mess. Yeah. I'm like, y'all are changing this. Your generation, y'all done with that. Yeah. I mean, I'm so glad that that's not even in your mind. Like, nah, not at all. At a young age. When I was your age, Kris, I had a publishing deal with EMI. My man Jay Praise. Yeah. I was blowing money. We had hundreds of thousands coming in. I'm just drinking, drugging. But I'm so glad at this age you're at least looking like, you know what? Ain't no future in that stuff. Nah, not at all. No future. Thank you. So my younger people, what can you give the younger audience, Kris, to get started? For them that are your age, you 25, and most people, how many people are your age that you do business with? Not many, except on my team, my company. I have structured my company around.
Okay, so you're
bringing in younger people.
All right, great.
Yep. But outside of my
Outside of that,
company,
though.
it's not really. I'm usually the youngest in the room, to be honest with you. So I like it though, because I gain so much valuable like insights. So like people like you know, people who have been in the industry for a long time, you know, doing their thing. It's very valuable because no matter how good I am or anybody are, age, experience, we can't, you know.
Can't buy it.
Yeah, you can't buy it.
Yeah, you can't buy it. Well, thank you for sharing a good word. Like the content. You got to share this stuff, y'all, so you get the word out for our community and our culture, to get this stuff out to acquire assets.
Yep.
All right. And hit that like button, subscribe, and we'll put all the show notes, all the information for Kris's links right below, how you get in touch with him if you want to list your house, if you want to sell him a house or whatever. Maybe you can learn something from him too. I'll see you on the next video. Peace.
Peace.